say
Yeah.
history repeats itself, so you best pay attention. It's Firearms History with Frank.
There it is.
Love the intro.
The only
Love
man
it.
with the only man with his own theme music.
So
Actually, I'll go a step further. You're the only person that has his own theme. We don't even have our own.
No,
No.
nice.
we share theme music.
Yeah, there you go. All right. You're quite the shit, Frank. Go ahead.
I know. So, like I was telling Keith today, I had a day. So this is all I'm shooting from the hip today. And what I want to talk about is something that we talked about new gun owners today, and I want to give them some information that's useful because I'm starting to see a trend the wrong way, a mistake, if you will. So what we're going to talk about today is pre versus post 64 Winchester. Either of
Okay.
you know about this?
So not my, I'm more of like the black stock
Okay.
kind of guy. So
But you grew up a hunter. Your dad's a hunter.
I did. So, but if you tell me a little more about it, I'll grab it.
All right. Keith, do you know the rifleman's rifle? Have you ever heard that term?
I've heard that term, but I don't know.
You know what it applies to?
I don't know what rifle it applies to.
Okay. All right. So in 1964, let's say 1963, Winchester was facing a lot of pressure from their board members, internal pressure that they were no longer profitable. They used to put a lot of pride into their product. They built these rifles, many of them by hand, kind of like how Nighthawks are built today. You would have an old timer who'd been doing it for a long time on a milling machine, putting painstaking work into making everything perfect. The wood was not just beautiful walnut, but it was like select grade walnut, had good figuring in it. The checkering on said walnut was done by hand.
Yep.
These rifles were really fit together expertly. In 1963 or by 1963, it was becoming not profitable at all. And Winchester was facing a dilemma. Do we go out of business or do we change the way we do things? And probably correctly, I don't know, hard to say, they chose to cut some corners rather than go out of business. So in that transition period of 1963 and 1964, they began to use metal alloys instead of steel bar stock, like really high quality steel. They began to use castings instead of milling parts. They began to use cheaper wood. They began to use things like plastic butt pads instead of metal butt pads.
That hand checkering was probably gone.
The hand checkering gave way to press checkering, which, if you know what that is, they'll lay the stock out and they'll have a stamping machine just kind of push it in. It looks pretty cheesy as far as I'm concerned. It's not sharp like hand cut checkering. So all of these things happened in that transition period, and it kind of backfired because all the gun writers at the time and the old timers that loved these rifles were like, whoa, what did you guys do? They were disappointed. Jack O'Connor, he kind of coined that term, the rifleman's rifle, which was about the Winchester Model 70, a fantastic bolt action rifle. He was presented one of the first post 64 Winchester Model 70s. And he was a famous writer at the time, famous hunter, gun writer, everything else. And he saw it and he called it a crude piece of crap. So he was like, "This is garbage. What do you guys do to my rifle?"
Give me my old one back.
Yeah. He was upset, along with everybody else.
And it didn't shoot the same, obviously. Like it was.
You know
more,
what? They shot fine.
I was gonna
They
say
shot just fine.
So one thing really quick. This is one of those areas where I feel like a lot of guns will just fire.
Sure.
Right? Like even like the most garbagey crap. I mean, there's some things that are bad, but there's a lot of crap that'll just run.
Sure. You could
Right?
argue with the Model 70 that it was less reliable because they went from a push feed system where it had a claw extractor that grabbed the rim of the cartridge as the cartridge came up from the magazine. The claw extractor, which was attached to the bolt, grabbed it and pushed it into the chamber, and it would feed at any speed. It would feed at any angle. It would feed upside down. It would feed any which way, any kind of ammo. They went to a push feed because that control feed was expensive to make. So they went to a push feed, and you could argue that was less reliable. But still,
Probably went bang a lot though.
the guns went bang an awful lot. They were probably just as accurate, let's face it. But they looked like crap. and it kept Winchester profitable. They were able to stave off pressure from Remington and Savage and the other gun companies at the time, but it gave them a really bad reputation that lasted about 10 years. It was most seen in the Winchester Model 70 and the Winchester Model 94. They didn't take finish the same. They didn't take the bluing the same. The finish kind of didn't flake off, but it discolored. It didn't look right. Even today, you could spot one from a mile away. But the reason I bring this up is all these new gun owners don't know this. And pre-64 Winchesters should bring a premium. There's no day that a pre-64 should sell for less than a post-64. And what I'm starting to see is a lot of new gun owners who don't know about this that are willing to pay more for the newer rifle because it's newer, and they're getting an inferior product. Now, towards the end of the 80s, the quality did improve again. It never went back to where it was, but it did start to improve again.
So you would say like the original, you actually did say this, but like the original, the prior to 1964 would be like almost like a custom firearm or close to a custom.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And so why is it that people don't know the difference? Can they not tell the difference in the quality, or they just assume newer is better?
They assume newer is better, but they also can't tell the difference in the quality. A lot of people don't look at. They don't know what to look for.
I was gonna say they don't know what to look
where
for.
two parts fit together, it should be perfect. If you're new to guns, you don't know what to expect.
Sure.
Is that gap in between those two parts, is that normal? I don't know. Sure. Why not?
Is that
Shouldn't be there.
52C that I bought?
Yeah, that's an old rifle.
That's an old rifle.
Yeah.
That's like 57.
Yep.
So that is a Winchester like pre this time.
That's a real.
And it feels like it. I mean, that gun feels like one of the most sturdy guns I own.
To give me perspective, if I were living back in the 60s, so I'm gonna assume, let's see, early 70s would have been like the original Colt Pythons era.
No,
No?
50s.
50s?
57, 58 was the
Okay.
Colt Python.
So,
Mm.
so is it fair to assume, like most things in our country, there was a time when like
55.
craftsmanship was just really appreciated, and then when things got more mass produced, it kind of went to shit.